Welcome everyone, today we have a new guide on Tower Fantasy, and today we'll be looking at Wormhole. As you can see over here, I have gotten 24 points for the full clear of this week. And looking over at this replay video, you can see me looting the golden Oculus over here, and there is 6 of them to be looted for fully clearing this. Now this particular challenge might seem a little difficult at the start, but as you can see at the final stage of me defeating the boss, it is actually not that difficult once you know what to do. And this is fully focused on F2Play. So free to play clear of this particular event, it is really rewarding. As you can see behind me, I have a ton of buffs, and the major focus of this guide video is to guide you through everything, but also the special abuses, the tricks to get more buffs. So I want to show you guys how to get more buffs, and I want to give you guys a full summary of how to clear this to 24 stars or 24 points for this week to get 6 summons. So you can see I have a lot of buffs, and let me show you guys how I got them. Now as you guys see over here, one of the highest damage I was able to do was over 300,000 by using the stacking of the buffs and getting multiple buff method. And this is a very good way to deal more damage and also to pass this whole stage of the wormhole. So just let me to explain this a little better. So over here we're trying to get double buffs before finishing the progress. Notice I have 97%. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to kill 2 elite monsters together in one pack, and once one of them dies, the other one will also die because I have 100% progress. And by doing this, I will basically get 2 buffs instead of having 1 buff for killing one of them. So this is giving us multiple buffs. You can also abuse this system to do multiple buffs with 3 or 4 buffs if you do this correctly. So let's say if I'm 99%, I group 4 of the elite monsters together, I kill them, I get 3 additional buffs, then 1 buff. And this is how you become much stronger throughout the fight. So as I pick up the buffs, I become stronger, and this will snowball into a higher level. And here you can see me using a similar method. Here I have grouped 3 of the elite monsters while I have 93%. This means upon killing them, I get 3 buffs instead of just 1 buff. So this really progresses you much further into the progress as you go through the game. And I do strongly recommend doing this at every stage. Get at least 2 elite monsters when you're close to 100%. And if you can get 3 or 4 of them, you're getting a bonus of 2 or 3 more buffs. And this will make you so much more stronger. Now what I'll try to do is, I'll try to share multiple tips and also insights throughout the game. Firstly, I'll show you guys how I map the map and how I find monsters and collect them. Then I'll show you guys how to get multiple buffs in one stage, much more than most players would do. And then how to heal yourself, what are the trips against the bosses, and how to defeat each of the bosses. And let's get into the replays and I'll go through those with you guys. Now over here, what I'll do is I'll give you guys an example of my full run and also my thought work and also how I plan the whole map. It's quite important for you to understand this because as free-to-play players, you want to get as much resource, as much buffs as you can. So right at the start, once you click OK, the timer will tick down. Currently, this is a high difficulty challenge level with level 5, and I have gotten enough of the attack buffs, so I'm quite strong even as a free-to-play player with all the damage buffs. So right at the get-go, what you're going to look for is, you're going to look for elite monsters that provide a massive bonus to progress, but you're not going to kill them. You're going to find a pack of them, which are a lot of them together. And also, in case you guys are not sure if they're elite monsters or not, if you hit them, they will have a shield buff. Once they have the shield, you know they're elites, and you will recognize them. Notice that I see 2 elites together grouped at the same point, and this is a good point for me to come back to, because our trick will be farming them together to get more buffs. So I will be scouting the map at the get-go. So what I'm trying to do is I want to know the vicinity of the monsters and how close they are, how many I can pull together so I can kind of kill them together when I have close to 100% progress. And I want to know the location of the elite monsters. Usually I don't kill the normal monsters because they only provide a bit of healing, and I don't need healing as long as I'm dashing with Nemesis. There will be random buffs that is spawning on the map. Make sure you scout the map first for those random buffs. And you can see this one over here. So what I do first is I locate the location of the elite monsters, then I scout for the buffs. And once I do that, I will try to kill a few of the single elite monsters first, and then I'll try to finish them off with a bunch of them for multiple of buffs. And this is the best trick in this mode to get a lot of buffs. So what I'll do is I'll quickly show you guys. So once I've scouted, I'll be going for the elite monsters. Now while fighting those monsters, it is very beneficial for you to do perfect dodges. This will freeze them, give you a lot of time to do damage, and reduce the damage you take. At this stage, I've picked a lot of the damage buffs and I was able to clear them, with ease. You can see there's 10 stacks of that buffs over here. So at this stage, I'm quite strong. But what I'll do is I'll teach you guys how to start with a difficult stage when you don't have any buffs. Now I'm clearing off the single monsters, and I'll show you guys a big trick over here. So I have located all the monsters that are available that I can kill. So over here, what you're going to see is I am grouping multiple elite monsters. I know for killing each of those will give me 25% progress. But if you group them and if you engage with them, if you kill them, when you go beyond 100%, all the other elite monsters will die and they will provide you with a buff. This is not the case if you only kill one at a time. So once you're left with about 80% or higher than 75%, try to kill as many elite monsters as you can in one group. So notice how here I was able to kill from 87% to get 2 elite monster kills. Now after killing the monsters, when you have a healing weapon, especially when you have a nemesis over here, what I do is I actually don't finish the run. What I do is I will actually be healing with dashes. Notice that my HP is not full, and if you're using healing weapons, make sure you use this 30 or a minute pretty much, the auto exit to heal yourself. It is not possible to get additional loot at this stage, so it is best to just stay in here and heal yourself as much as you can. Now if you do get below 10 seconds, the countdown will continue to do 10 to 0, but this doesn't matter. Stay here and heal yourself as much as you can. Notice that after a minute, I was able to heal 30% of my HP, and this really goes a long way. Now during the fight, there may be times that one of the monsters actually fall off the cliff. If that happens, you can chase the monster down the cliff. So I'll show you guys a little example over here. What you're going to see is the monster actually fell off the cliff and it got killed. And I want my buff, right? So I fall off the cliff with it and I slowly glide with the jetpack. And if you don't glide, you're falling a little faster. Make sure you press IF as you glide downwards to get this buff. If you missed it, you'll be teleported back somewhere else. So you don't want to miss any buffs if you get a monster to fall down the cliff. And this is a little bonus tip about killing the monsters and getting more buffs. So what I'll quickly show you guys is, this is my free-to-play gears pretty much, and we have Nemesis, we have Samir, and also I have King. I was lucky to get 1 copy of King, and then I picked the 2nd copy of King from my SSR selection box. So this is how I got King to 1 star. And this is all I have. Level 80, and my matrices, I only have 1 golden SSR matrices. And you can clear this even with those gears. So this is quite nice, and let me go through the full guide with you guys. So first of all, let's start with the gear rings. I strongly recommend having at least 1 healing item, and over here I'm using the Nemesis as a healing item, and this is very powerful. As you're going to see throughout the game, we're going to kind of abuse the time and also try to heal ourselves or top up after every stage. Now after the healing item, I also recommend having 1 shatter item. My item over here is King with the Scythe of Crow, and also I do believe another powerful item is also from over here Mario and her Rose Edge. So those 2 items are very preferable, having 1 healing item and also 1 shatter item. Now just on a small side, I do not have Rose's Edge, but if you do get this item to 1 star, you'll get a lot of healings in this mode, because the shattering effect and also regenerate 10% HP is massive in this mode. You heal so much. But for me, having 1 star of the King also provides me a little more shattering, which really helps in fighting the bosses and also breaking them. Now if you guys do have the King, I also recommend considering awakening him to level 3, so you do get this bonus. Every 7 enemy defeated, you will gain 8% of HP back, and this will help you to go along in sustaining yourself and getting more HP. So if you guys are not aware, you can give the character gifts, and once you give enough gift, you can get to 1200 points for the level 1 of the special abilities. You can only have 1 of those at a time, and previously I was using Nemesis. Now I'm using the King for this particular challenge. And as for the gifts, make sure you guys do spend the points over here, so you can use your points over here to buy those for 60, but I don't recommend buying them unless you really have to. You can also buy those over here with the challenges, and once you buy them, make sure you select the correct box for the 80 points of the gift gain. Okay, now let's get back into the wormhole. I got sidetracked too much over here. Now that we talk about getting more buffs and also healing ourselves, let's talk about how you start off the stages. Right at stage 1-1, at any stage, normal, hard or challenge mode, what you want to do is, you want to be collecting as much damage buffs as you can. And of course at the very start, so notice here, I think this is the challenge mode, the hardest difficulty. Killing even 1 of the elite at the very start is so difficult for me. It takes me close to a minute to kill 1. So just be aware of this. It is hard at the start, and my damage is not high, it will take me ages to kill it. But The good thing is, after killing it, if you keep picking damage buffs, and by the time you have 8 stacks of them, you will become much stronger. So after killing a few stages, I was able to kill the monsters much faster. By the start, it is quite difficult. Now, a small tip of advice, if you guys are picking buffs, make sure you understand the buffs only go for 8 stacks for bonus stats. So if you're getting a buff after 8 stacks, they won't give bonus stats at 12 stacks. I actually didn't know this as I was clearing them. I think I got one buff over 13. So make sure you aim for all the damage buffs to at least 8 stacks. And this is one of the best ways to make yourself stronger. At the start, try to pick them together. Notice here I made a small mistake. I was actually picking things that is out of multiples of 4. So what I could have done is I could have picked this one to get a second one. You want to pick at least 4 together for the first stage of the 4-stage boss. The 4th stage boss is very challenging for any stage, and because you don't have enough buffs, they're actually much harder than the final stage of the boss. Now, throughout the challenges of the wormhole, what I tend to find is it is actually much harder at level 4 for any of the difficulties. For the normal, hard or challenge difficulties, at level 4 the bosses seems to be much harder. And if you did not pick the right offensive stats, and if you didn't pick the right buffs, you actually have much harder time against those fights compared to the level 8. Because you have so much more buffs at the time. So it is so much challenging for level 4. And my focus will be talking about all the boss fights with you guys, but I strongly recommend picking the offensive buffs. So over here you can see this is one of the examples of me fighting the level 4 boss, and I could not defeat it because I picked the wrong buffs. And eventually after multiple tries I realized I have to restart from 1-1 again to 1-4 because it is not doable at the time, and I have to restart the whole process to pick the right buffs because I didn't pick enough offensive spells and I didn't get enough buffs. So it is okay that when you fail the challenge and you can't do it when after a few tries of redo, it's okay when you have not enough damage, because you can always pick different buffs if you try again and also collect more buffs with the multiple ways of us getting more buffs. And now let's go through the bosses and I'll give you guys some tips with each of the stages. Now for the normal bosses, both level 4 and also level 8 bosses are the same. They're the center and they might have different elements. So for the center, there is one thing you want to focus on, and this is very crucial. It is about mounting onto them after shattering the shield. So normally you dodge as normal, and what I want to show you guys is once we get onto the shield, this actually is an extended fight, and there's a few tips I want to show you guys. Now one of the tips is notice that I'm out of time, and if you go out of time you still have a little more time to play. So let's first have a look at the mounting mechanics for the centers, and this is for level 4, level 8 of the normal boss. Once you shatter the boss's shield, you can mount onto the boss by pressing F, and on top of the boss you'll do tremendous damage just by holding normal attack, and this is really good way to deal massive damage. Now notice the second thing is, I was out of time by the time I mount onto the boss, but don't give up. Keep fighting because you'll do a lot of damage and the game actually gives you a few more seconds afterwards. Notice I got like 10 more seconds as my time is 0. So for the normal bosses, I was actually out of time because I picked the wrong buffs. But once you pick enough offensive buffs, you won't have those difficulties once you get to the higher stages. Now coming over to the hard mode boss for level 4. For the Shelly over here, boss is actually very challenging. This is by far the 2 of the hardest boss I've fought. And basically, usually you try a few times, you understand the boss's attack pattern. The boss will have a normal punch, the boss will have a machine gun, and make sure you get close to the boss. Don't stay too far. If you stay too far, he will try to home you with a machine gun. If you're close enough, he actually can't hit you properly. The biggest mechanic about this boss is to shatter the boss while the boss has a shield. If you don't shatter the shield, the boss will do homing missiles and do tremendous damage against you. But if you do shatter the shield, it is actually quite easy against this boss. Once you have enough of the attack buffs, you can easily go through the boss. And dodge a few times, understand the mechanics. The bigger thing is, if you do have trouble with the machine gun, I'll try to show you guys the machine gun part. So try to get close as you can to the boss, and as long as you dodge the punches, the boss is not that difficult. But it will take a few tries. So if you get close to the boss and if you do any perfect dodges or just dodge around in a rotation against the machine guns, you will do much better against this boss. Once you shatter the boss about 2 to 3 times, you should be able to beat it. Now keep in mind guys, this is 2 of the hardest bosses in any of the challenges, because level 4 bosses are super difficult. Once you get to level 8, they are actually much easier. And over here you can see that I was actually super close on defeating this boss, and I got a little carried away. So I'll quickly show you guys what happens when you don't shatter the boss. So the boss will go into a maximum state, and he will levitate, and he will start to shoot missiles. And those missiles are homing, and it's very hard to dodge them. So make sure you shatter this boss as you fight it. Now the hard boss for level 8 is actually quite straightforward, because you have enough attack buffs by now if you pick mostly offensive buffs. And at this stage, try to do a few perfect dodges, and don't worry if you fail once, this boss is very straightforward with enough damage. So, basically try to shatter the boss whenever he's got a shield, and just go through them. And I didn't have any difficulty against him, and I don't think you guys will. Once you get through to level 4, the mechanics of the game with enough buffs actually gets so much easier. Notice that I was able to defeat the hard mode boss under a minute. I had 3 minutes, and under a minute we can take down the boss. And this is so much easy once you know the method. Now coming over to the hardest boss between those wormhole fights, this is the harder mode boss for level 4 for the challenge mode. And this is fighting Freak. She is incredibly hard hitting, and she is quite durable. There's a lot of mechanics you should be aware. She has a counter spell as well, I believe, and when you damage her while she is in a counter mode, you will be continuously subject to additional damage against you. So do be careful with that. And you can see I have failed multiple times, and because this boss is actually one of the hardest I had, and I played over about 4 or 5 tries to defeat her. So starting the fight against her on the challenge mode. Now do try to dodge after hitting her right at the start. So notice that here I tried to do a perfect dodge, but I actually missed. She will do a sweep attack, and then at this time if you dodge, you get a free perfect dodge and you get going. But even if you don't dodge, the key is to try to do as much damage as to her before she gets into the counter stage. So I'll try to show you guys one of the counter stages. And so once she actually crouches down and holds her blade, she will be in a countering mode. That if you do any damage against her, she will start to counter you and do tremendous damage against you. But if you don't attack her at the time, you will be able to actually, get away with it and actually run away from it. So I was able to beat her, but let me find you guys one of the countering phases against her. So coming over to this fight over here, I want to show you guys what happens when she counters and why you should try to avoid it. Notice that she's crouching down with holding her blade in a special way. At this moment, if you attack her, she will counter you. Notice that counters comes in slashes, and each time you attack her, she will counter you. So make sure you don't attack her multiple times. But my little electric towel was hitting her non-stop, and I was getting countered non-stop, and it's very hard to dodge this, very hard to time the perfect dodge. So make sure you don't hit her once she crouches down onto the field. Now because Freak is actually the hardest boss in this entire challenge to finish the wormhole, what I realize is if you do not get enough damage buffs, it is okay to start from 1-1 again and try to get different damage buffs. So I actually failed the first time of fighting her. The second time I was just barely enough damage to get through with minimal HP. I didn't get any HP buffs, I got all the damage buffs that I could get. Cause what I was relying on is the perfect dodges and also to deal damage before she kills me. It is quite nice of her because during her shattering phase, she will not move and wait for you to shatter her. I was able to shatter her multiple times, so I actually didn't see what happens when you don't shatter her. I believe you can actually take a lot of damage. So make sure you abuse this kind of mechanics and shatter her and deal a lot of damage. Now picking the offensive buffs and also increase of attack means my healing spells and also my healing abilities were actually getting more heals out of myself as well, which is really nice. So make sure you try her multiple times. If you can't beat her without any damage, you restart from 1-1 to 1-3 again to try to get more buffs. It took me about 2 tries, so I restarted once against this boss, and on the second try I had enough attack buffs to do this. So this one took me about 30 minutes to do it again, but it is definitely worth it, because after her, the final boss is very easy. So jumping over quickly to the final boss of the challenge mode, and this one is gonna be Aegis. Aegis is actually quite straightforward. Once you have enough attack buffs, by picking those, you'll actually have no trouble killing her. So I won't go through too much because she was quite easy. So notice that within like a minute or so, I was able to beat her, and I wasn't even dodging much. So the hardest bosses are the level 4 bosses. And make sure guys, if you do not beat the boss without enough damage, you restart the whole run again from 1-1 to 1-3. Now if you do have enough damage, then learn the mechanics of the boss and try to do a few perfect dodges, and this will help you to get through the boss. Again, those are the buffs for clearing the challenge mode, and those are some of the buffs you should be focusing on. Now remember guys, focus on to 8 stacks of the buffs, because after 8 you don't get any bonuses. And what I should have done is, instead of going for 14 over here, I should have went for 8 here and also 8 over here. Now if you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel and for more content related to Tower of Fantasy. I'll be looking into more free-to-play content, and I've tried to look into minimum spending or no spending method to clear the game and also achieve the highest amount of free currencies and also free-to-play characters and also weapons in the game.